Hello, welcome to Hotline FN. This is episode 4. It's season 9, week 4 of Fortnite. See how they line up perfectly. And this is Competitive Fortnite's call-in live show and podcast. Of course, tonight we have our co-host and good friend BallaTW in the proverbial building, I suppose. But we also have an incredible player, an incredible analyst and commentator coming up out of the Brazilian scene originally. We've got ShyoWager here as well. What's going on, gentlemen?
What up?
Hey, guys. Hey. Balla, I wanted to ask you before we get going here, what have you been up to this week?
I always say same old man. But you know, it's been a little chill week. We played World Cup week 7. I don't know what I'm saying. Words are hard.
We'll get there.
Week 7. We didn't do too hot. But we'll be back on week 9 and we're gonna crush it. We're gonna qualify for New York. Besides that, catching up on Game of Thrones, almost caught up, almost to season 8. Finally,
ready to be disappointed.
We're literally in the middle of the. Dude, don't even. I just watched the whole 8 seasons of this, man. Like, it's gonna be good, okay? It's gonna be good. No, that's it. Just catching up on Game of Thrones. I'm flying out to LA tomorrow morning, so we're gonna be doing the casting this weekend. It's fun as usual.
Hell, that sounds great.
Nice.
So Shyo, thank you so much for being on Hotline FN this week. It's incredible.
No problem. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, of course. What have you been up to this week?
So, same thing, the same old VOD reviews, playing the game, figuring out why the Burst SMG is what it is. And then today was special. Went out to Hudson's Bay Clothing Company, check out some nice Hawaiian shirts and whatnot up in the closet, and yeah, it was some fun times.
Well, you fit right in, man. You fit right in. The overlays were made specially for you.
Especially, yeah.
Hells yeah.
Special episode coming in at you. All right, before we get going, I want to reiterate again, submit your topics. Let's get talking. Let's get you in on the show. Let's get you live. Even if you can't stick around to talk, please still submit topics there in the Discord. First things first, guys, I want to talk to you a bit about, and of course, Shyo's brought it up here, Burst SMG, the suppressed SMG, how these fit. Shy, of course, you had an incredible week on Twitter with your mad prediction. Do you want to tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so when I saw the Burst SMG, I realized that, it's like the snipers, there's like 14 different light bullet weapons that are being introduced. It didn't seem like both of those would fit at the same time. Like, I don't think people would take the Burst just with the sounds being in there. And it's a dope gun, or it was, in my opinion. They just did a recent change to it where the damage got reduced to builds, which I thought was the main point of it. It fit like a kind of a niche where you could not have it as a main weapon, but like a supplementary item, kind of like a heavy sniper. It's not like the best thing to spam with, but now that that's gone, it's going to be interesting to, try to adapt all of that. But it's a cool gun. It's not bad. It just runs out of ammo really, really fast. So it's kind of hard to, with the whole spam state of Fortnite, use that in its own mentality.
We experienced that firsthand, the damn ammo situation yesterday. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Like, it feels like you shoot it and it just like all of a sudden like you've done a little bit of damage, but if you want to kill the guy, it's out of ammo.
Yeah, literally.
It goes out fast. It goes out faster than any gun. Like it goes out faster than the freaking sniper. That's how it feels like, man. I can shoot my sniper faster.
No, yeah. You run out of ammo crazy quickly. It's a long time between shots. One thing I thought was interesting, Shy, you said like SMG was this sort of like, we had, Infamous and Elevate both had kind of alluded to like 3 gun loadouts are dead, right? Like long live 2 guns and a bunch of utility. And so like the SMG, I feel like was seeing less and less play late game up into a point, right? There becomes a point where it's just like, if I have an AR, it needs to be not an AR now, right? But
yeah,
I don't think the Burst fulfills that role at any point of the game at all. Like it just doesn't do what the SMG did. And instead, that kind of like position has been pushed backwards. So like it's available at gray now, gray, green, and blue, right? And I think it's pushed it from the position you said, like this item that could be taken as a supplement to whatever else you had going on, right? And now it's just like it's a weapon to pick up in the early game. Congrats if it's blue, and then drop it as soon as you can. And yeah, I don't know, I kind of think that like there's a room for weapons like that, right? That's why the pistol exists, for that power curve. Oh,
Fuck that shit. Get it out, man.
whoa.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's like the Great Pistol's older cousin. Like, kind of looks cooler, but like does exactly the same thing once a year at like a Christmas party. It's not that special. I don't know.
I could
But
see
yeah.
them being only gray and only available on floor loot. Same with the pistol. Those are the kind of changes I'd like to see. You need like, I don't know. The game's never not gonna have and encourage this power loot through or power curve through looting, right? And like
It could, you know.
I mean,
they
it
have
could.
the power to do that. Yeah.
I don't think that they would have to seriously commit to having a very different competitive versus casual experience, because they're not going to remove that from the base game. That's the gotcha system, right? Like that's the
Is it
endorphin
though?
rushing.
Is it,
Like yeah.
Is it?
That fills endorphins.
You think
with,
that you think that landing and finding a great or a nice weapon over a great pistol is that I got a gold pump, let's go, now I can actually win the game? You think that's the gotcha system?
That is a huge part of the gotcha system for the casual player base. Oh yeah, entirely. That's like that's like one of the major hooks of battle royales as we understand them. That's my thought anyway. I mean, I don't see how a lot of these games remain relevant or popular in the face of games like Counter-Strike without that kind of system, right? Especially the older generation of battle royales.
But I feel like you have those other elements, not necessarily with the guns, right? You already have that with the guns, how they act, right? All the guns have bloom, all that sort of stuff already exists. You get shield or not. Like, I think the gotcha system is landing and finding a kill, and that's where you get that. Oh, all of a sudden now the endorphins are running. Oh, I got a kill. I landed and I got a kill. It doesn't matter whether you got it with a gold pump or not. Sure, dude. There's still items that'll give you that more than versus like, I don't know, an AR versus like a gold pump. Like, even that, right? You don't need the gray pistol to necessarily make you have that feeling. You know what I'm saying? Like, still make a gun decent where it's not gonna ruin somebody's game in a competitive sense, and it still can exist. I think that the kill is the more important thing, not necessarily the weapon.
Sure. I obviously, right, I don't want to argue for anything from the casual perspective. Like, this isn't that. And the reason I stick around my gotcha system is sweet edit kills, and that's like 90% of the reason why I love this game, right? Fell in love with it in the first place. So
Victory royale for me, man. That's that shit. In a scrim, it can't be in no pub, no arena mode. It's just
I hear that. All right, so silent SMG, burst SMG is bad. Every version of it is bad. Is there a world in which you've got like god tier aim and you can just guarantee 2 of the 4 bullets are always going to the head and the rest are always going to the body, and then suddenly it's a good gun? Like, does that exist? It didn't really exist for the dualies, right? Even if you were hitting every shot, it still just wasn't as good as other options. So is the DPS high enough on any of the variants for like you to say, I'm the best aimer in the world?
2 out
Let's
of
do
4
it.
shots. Is it actually worth it? Like, does that actually do anything? It's still just.
It's like compared to like just spraying with another gun, it's the same thing. But like at the same time, you talk about, you know, the whole ping situation where the one guy has 0, other person's living in like Uganda. Like straight up, if you just shoot through people's walls, it can do something no other gun can do, right? It was just literally shoot through walls. It has X-ray. Granted that, you know, the build damage is nerfed. That's one special thing, I guess. But as long as the other guy, once again, you know, casual versus competitive, is not sitting in his box on his iPhone tweeting out about his situation, about how he hates where he's at, you know, you can dodge all the advantages of that gun if you're a smart player.
Is the ping thing still a thing with the hotfix?
Yes, but like as long as it's a 3 damage change, but I think the wall's still low enough. Like a bullet will still sneak in and it can hit for 43, but you have to be standing very static. So I don't know. It like the build damage is lowered, but if the wall's low enough and it's wood, it can still work.
Like, it was harder to sneak a bullet through with the FAMAS, but the payoff was so much greater, and we still didn't really see a lot of that, right? Like, I just don't think it's.
Yeah, I remember we actually had a discussion about the burst, like the burst AR and sneaking shots through, and how that was actually something useful.
Yeah,
but,
like it can be cheeky,
I mean,
but it's not where you want to be. Like,
if I want to sneak shots through, I'll use a minigun. Like,
yeah, exactly, and you'll just be better off in so many more situations. Yeah, entirely.
Yeah.
All right, guys, I got another topic here for you. Okay, well, here's the big one, actually. We've got the competitive AMA tomorrow, the Ask Me Anything, in the Fortnite competitive subreddit. Obviously, it's like a big hullabaloo. There's been multiple front page posts about it every day since they announced it. What are you guys thinking? What are you excited for? Obviously, there's kind of two sides to this conversation, right? That we wanted to have. What are we excited for out of this competitive AMA? Like, what do you guys want to see out of it? And like, what are you worried that particular community might do with it?
I like how that's an addendum. I put out a tweet today, basically talking about what I hope for.
That was a very constructive tweet, by the way.
Yeah, it was,
I really appreciate seeing it.
Yeah, it was awesome. Like 66 replies. Most of them were freaking really good, like constructive tweets. I mean, some of them were kind of like stupid stuff.
Sure.
But yeah, my hopes are, I want to know about the future for competitive Fortnite, right? I want to know what's coming after World Cup. I want to know if there's going to be any hints, anything like that. I know they probably can't talk crazy long-term plans, but I just want to know, like, are you committed to doing something next year? That's basically my, I want that 100%. If I don't get that, I'll be disappointed. I want them to comment on the practice environments. It's been a hot topic. We talked about it last week and probably the week before that. I want them to talk about third-party tournaments because since ESL, there hasn't been anything at all, right? Since ESL, there hasn't been anything at all.
Not one.
And sure, World Cup is here, so they're focused on other stuff, so they can't really support those third parties, but are the tools ready for these guys? All that sort of stuff. I want to know about it. And then I want to deep dive on the viewing experience with them because there's been, it's been a hot topic recently, obviously with the way the World Cup broadcast works. A lot of people are concerned about it.
Yeah.
So curious about their thoughts on that, and then just basic stuff like loot pool and customization, like the FOV slider and topic we were just talking about, right?
Yeah.
That's what I want to see. If I don't see most of that stuff, I'll be disappointed.
Yeah, that's totally fair.
Yeah, I'm worried about them just doing one reply for every topic and not having like an AMA type of format of back and forth. Like, the whole FOV slider thing, they just replied and then it just sat chilling in a fridge for like, up till now. I just want us to be able to come to them with a topic. They respond, we respond, they respond, like a resolution per se. Because sometimes they have this habit of just, coming out with just like a response that everyone can just accept. But, it's a good idea to talk about the whole thing in general. And then practice environments for sure. I think that they can actually just self-regulate something really good, or have like an elo system at least, so it's kind of enticing to win and fearful to lose. Like right now, everyone's habit in arena, even when customs are down, they still push, right? If people just played smart, had something to actually risk, there'd be an actual point of playing in the comp side of things, but there isn't right now really, unless you're in that 10 game format on the weekend. So yeah.
No, I agree with that. I think something a little bit about like I think ideally they communicate back and forth, but I don't, that's the ideal situation. But what I'm more expecting is more what you said, just like short communications on things that we're interested in. Like, I don't think we're gonna get a lot of like, oh, you're right. You know what I mean? I don't think there's gonna be a lot of like debates where we're like swaying their opinion, right? Like,
true, yeah, for sure.
like if that was the case, they would have they don't need to have an online conversation with one or two specific people to have seen front pages communities around, right? So I don't know how much of that we'll actually see.
At the same time, they could like stuff that they're working on too. They could say, hey, we're working on this. We know about this. Like we at least acknowledging a lot of stuff is still possibility.
Also because everyone's waiting for that creative mode to still come out in between queues. Everyone will just bring up all this other stuff. Where it's like, you guys have promised this in the past. It's been like 14 seasons. I've got 4 children. I'm trying to qualify. Like, what's going on? So like, I don't know.
Yo, find me the man with 4 children that's qualifying for World Cup, dude. Let's go. Where is he at?
He's my idol. Let's go.
Yeah, but at the same time, it's also going to bring that stuff, right? Where they're going to say, hey, we're bringing this. We're going to bring you this. And then, it kind of falls off by the wayside. And nobody hears about it again. Like, there's going to be a lot. I kind of hope that there's a lot of that, but I also am scared of it too, because like it gives us insight of what they're working on, what they're thinking on. But at the same time, I know we're going to be disappointed because we talked about this probably episode 2, right? Where companies make promises and then they don't follow up on them. And that's why they stop communicating, is because that loop is just not worth it for them.
Yep.
So I hope there's kind of a lot of that, but I also hope there's not, because kind of, oh shit.
You think it's going to influence orgs?
I don't actually like that.
I just thought about that.
Yes.
In terms of, you know, there's so much talk about, like every org's dropping all their players like after Worlds. So like I think that's gonna be pretty big, especially with all this other stuff going on in the scene. So you don't know.
Do you really think that's gonna happen though, with millions still up throughout the rest of the year? Like is that worry coming from like a you know, leaks from orgs, or is that just people spouting like it's the death of Fortnite after World Cup?
I mean, those competitions are happening, but it's like people are getting paid out like $150, right? Compared to like the big tournament money, like every three, like the point of an actual salary.
Yeah.
Because then the orgs are like breaking even, which is like, you know, not good. So like even in terms of exposure, right? Like the big
thing.
tournaments, the minors, yeah, that's the big thing. Because you know, person can win come like, you know, 20th, but they're never going to be shown coming 20th on like the mainstream or like anywhere but like a Rosenful leaderboard that someone wants to go and, you know, watch, not what the advertisers or sponsors are looking for.
That's
so,
true.
I don't know.
That's true.
Let's be
Assuming a
honest here,
similar
like-
pop-up system as we've seen.
Let's be honest though, orgs are always being affected. There's always orgs are looking at, hey, is this actually a worthwhile investment for me? Like anything that Epic does is going to be interesting to orgs, and they're going to be thinking about it. And specifically when they're commenting on future, right? And Epic has shown a kind of you know, lackadaisical approach to esports and orgs and all of this stuff in general, communicating wise, you know, competitive integrity wise, all this stuff that has left these guys kind of wondering and scratching their heads. Hey, is this something that we want to pursue? Like, is there a point to this? Is there a future for it?
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that's a huge deal that probably won't be talked out. Thanks for bringing that up. That's a huge point. People are going to be watching this. People are hanging their hats on it.
I think it's hard for them, right? Because from their perspective, they're like, well, we got to see how this goes. And if it goes well, then yeah, of course we'll have big plans for the next year. But for everybody else, it's like, well, like I can't just like like you said, hang my hat. I can't just like wait with my life in the balance for you to like maybe announce something after this is over.
Yeah.
But of course, on the flip side, once they probably do announce something, once first World Cup is over, it's gonna suck looking like a fool who packed up his toys and left, right? Like,
yeah,
it's tough, right? Like, that's a hard situation for everybody who's playing.
I don't know if they look like fools though. Like just because they announce something else, again, it's not necessarily just because there's a tournament that means that there's worthwhile investment, right? If the way that they have been treating some things ends up continuing, that's also a reason for them to, you know, say, hey, I'm out. Like, you guys, whoever's staying in, you guys can have fun. Like, hopefully it's good for you, but yeah.
Yeah, no, I don't think there's any shame in deciding to move on. Definitely not.
Yeah. The one thing in the competitive anime that I'm worried about though is, and we've seen posts about like how the community's reaction to it is going to be, and I saw evidence of this already in the posts that I made on Twitter today about like what questions you're going to ask, and that's going to be like the ones that are very, very easy for Epic to brush off and not give any insight into what they're actually thinking.
Yeah.
Like you said, I mean, the spammy ones like revert, FOV, revert, or whatever, like stupid stuff like that. But just like questions that don't have any sort of like answer that actually shows anything about anything. Like even real questions that are like, hey, are you? I can't even think of any examples. Let me go through this. But like, people need to be very, very cognizant of what they're asking. Is it actually going to be worthwhile to us? Like, do we care about this answer? Maybe you care, but if they answer, like, you have to frame your questions in such a way that they're not going to be able to just like, oh yeah, okay, yes, the answer is yes, or no, or whatever. Like, it has to. I want people to think about how they're going to answer and whether it's going to be a future. Like, is it going to give us insight on the future? Because that's what we're most concerned about.
Yeah, so like concrete things. I just don't want, you know, wishy-washy cement that's not in the ground yet. Just want simple answers that people can just play off of, you know?
Yeah, I think it's also hard, I mean, to play devil's advocate a little bit. Obviously, this is what I want. But something interesting, I think could be a parallel to how a lot of these conversations might end up going tomorrow, is audio fixes, where they announced a huge suite of audio fixes before Season 9 launched. And we're very upfront with, like, these are ones that will be launching with Season 9. Here are the ones that should be launching the next week. And here's a bunch of other stuff that we're working on, but can't ETA at all. And even that kind of information, while like that's the hard stuff that's, you know, for them to put out, commit to dev dates and that kind of thing, but that is super helpful, right? Just to know that like, okay, like a fix for this is coming, you know, when you're frustrated and pissed off because didn't hear somebody behind you or whatever, it's like, oh, okay, like they're implementing, I can't remember the name of it, but it's the same audio system that CSGO uses. Like they're exploring that and they're trying to make it work.
HRTF, yeah.
Yep. So I hope that we get a lot of answers like that.
Like already announced, like stuff that they've already talked about, stuff that philosophies that they've already talked about. Like I don't want people to ask again about that. Like one thing that I'm looking at is, and this isn't even confirmed or anything like that, but there's been leaks about, you know, arena trios and arena squads, and I'm sure there's gonna be a bunch of people. Oh, there's arena or is squads or trios are happening, but like we kind of already know, like stuff like that. That's not the greatest example, but like stuff that we already know or we already know how they feel about it is not what I want people to ask. If I see those, I'm going to be very thoroughly disappointed because they're going to be easy cop out answers that we already know the answer.
Yeah.
There you go.
Okay. All right. Any of you guys anything else to say about the AMA tomorrow?
Just like you mentioned the whole topic about like the bug situation. I realized I think a few months ago that although like, you know, in prac on Twitter people post a lot of bugs, Epic never actually puts them on their Trello a lot, even like the big ones, until someone actually officially reports it. So I just want to, this is like the one chance we basically have where they can actually see everything, you know, from bugs to like just ideas in general, because they're even like, I bet you there's some people probably in the company like don't even, you know, understand the whole revert thing, right? Yeah. So it's just gonna be, I just hope that a lot of people, like there's gonna be an understanding between both parties, because there just seems to be a kind of a disconnect right now. I just hope and then as Ball said, like the important understanding, the most important thing is just to make the community kind of seem intelligent. Like these questions of, you know, will this basic thing happen, might show that, you know, the competitive community might not be worth the biggest investment in, you know, answering questions or addressing. Sure. So I just hope it's some good stuff that's been passed back and forth.
Yeah. And I think worst case scenario, it's no worse than the previous communications we've had, and that sucks. Like that's bad, but like that's the worst case scenario. Whereas I think there's like a lot of potential. I don't know. It's hard for me not to get like overhyped and be like, this is their chance to like mend bridges and reunite with the competitive community and be understanding and have great conversations and, you know, unveil great things for the future of Fortnite competitive. But I also don't want to be dressed tomorrow.
It goes both ways.
Oh yeah.
It really goes both ways. Like Shio said, just like you said, like this is a moment where you can mend bridges. But again, it goes both ways. Don't be the asshole who spams "Where's my fucking pump" in the thread, because not
why can't I find a comment? That.
But yeah, like these are common things that they know about and they see. Like, don't be stupid and don't call their game shit. Don't say, oh, how can you guys, what are you guys working on to make your game better? Like, yeah, like it's already, like, look at it from their perspective. They're not going to want to see all that. If they see that, they're going to be like, nope, I never want to do this again. We're done.
Yep.
Boom. So please be respectful, be understanding, and don't spam stupid shit. Please.
Straight up. Facts. Bars.
Tomorrow is going to be saved on the back of the mods, man. Like hands down.
They have a huge task yet.
They said they're going to be real super aggressive. I don't know, that little show of unity from them on that one post. That was fun. All right, guys. We got a question here from let's see, is sent in by Thrills. He wants to talk about, are all of the Fortnite paid collaborations ruining or negatively affecting competitive play? For example, vaulting, in his words, vaulting the pump for John Wick and the Iron Polar for Godzilla.
Well, is the Godzilla thing confirmed, or okay? That's just a rumor. But I mean, it could actually, you know, it could be a thing. Godzilla's coming out soon. There's whatever. John Wick was a thing, and you know the Avengers. It's been actually. Has there been a week in the last month that hasn't had a promotion? Right, we're still in the midst of the Jordan promotion.
Oh yeah, technically, huh?
Avengers, John Wick, Jordan. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah. So I think there was a week between Endgame and John Wick, and then besides that, it's been constant. So number one, they didn't vault the pump for John Wick. Like, don't be dumb. Maybe the assault or the TAC AR came in because they were like, oh, this looks similar, but they're gonna add a weapon like that regardless. Like they just end it so it looked like the movie, right? They add weapons all the time. It's completely like,
and like ideologically, even if they were like, we're gonna do this John Wick promotion, and the studio or whatever was like, maybe you can put the shotgun he uses in the gun he uses in the game, and they were like, okay, yeah, let's think about that, right? Like, it's a very negative first thought to just be like, oh yeah, they just did it, you know, like there was no thought about it, there was no like, we should balance it this way or make it to fill this niche. Like, I wouldn't be upset if the only reason they were added was because of promotions, as long as like thought and care was put into the process, right? And there were still design decisions made behind it, right? Like, who cares then? Like, right, who cares? Like,
the combat shotgun is loved. Like, it's everybody loves it right now. I mean, I've seen a few people, but like, combat shotgun is loved, right? So that was a good addition. I don't think any of that stuff is ruining it. I think it's making it better. They're putting a lot of stuff in LTMs, right? Hey, this is actually a huge like turn, right? It's no longer that they're adding an Infinity Blade into the game and where you can't play the game without the Infinity Blade. Like, we've gotten LTMs after LTMs. I think so far the paid promotions, they're freaking cool. And I saw John Wick 3. It did its job. I would never have seen John Wick 3 if it wasn't for Fortnite. Like, because I watched John Wick 1. I was like, this movie is trash. And so, yeah, it's trash. Absolute dog shit.
This is a guy who doesn't like Die Hard.
For real?
Whoa.
I bet. All right, that's not what we're here for. That's not what we're here for. That's not what we're here for. I can't get into this with you.
That though, like the whole LTM thing, is that like, you know, could we be having pop-ups per se, or like other modes that are kind of reflective of competitive in that subspace? Because they have taken out modes before to not keep everything too cluttered. You know, especially when Gauntlet was out, there was like 14 different queues, and like they all had really bad times compared to Arena. So that might be something that Thrills is also trying to hit on, is just like, you know, is the time being put into this? And that's always been a question from companies, you know, why are they releasing skins when the game is trash, even though they're separate departments? Is time being taken away from furthering a better, you know, constructive competitive playlist compared to like an LTM promotional playlist? And have those playlists actually done much for comp? Because it's not like they've actually introduced a proper weapon from the get-go into those LTMs. Because Bella, I know you said the Infinity Sword is in those LTMs now. I don't think it's been that much of an impact on helping comp in a sense from having these LTMs.
Yeah, I don't think necessarily it's like benefited comp, other than that it's not happening in comp. And but I also can't agree with any kind of argument that they've really done anything detrimental to comp, right? Like, I don't know, I guess if you wanted to say something, oh my lordy, that's a big freaking spider. Holy cow.
Well, maybe we need an Infinity Blade in the real life.
Yikes, dude. All right, well, I'm gonna eyeball that little guy for like the whole rest. Dude, okay.
I don't know, man. Like, I agree with you, Tim, that like hasn't been anything detrimental because of the promotions in comp yet, hopefully. I mean, honestly, John Wick's house is pretty cool, so
that's true.
That people like yeah, nothing detrimental. As long as our thoughts are true that they didn't just remove the pump because they want John Wick thing.
I hope not. Oh my god.
But that's I think we can just dismiss that, right? That's not. They would have done that regardless. It accounted for 27% of the kills, so obviously.
Yeah. That's interesting. You want to talk about that, Paula?
Yeah.
It's like, nah, we good. We can move on from the pump. But we are officially in post-pump Fortnite, people.
Yes.
That's chill.
We're
That's
done
chill.
with that.
Something I kind of want to talk about is community reactions to patches versus content updates, right? Like, people, like a patch will hit, people will find bugs, or there'll be unfixed, unresolved stuff from the past, like whatever, right? And then, like, you know that the following week is a content update, and we've been well trained as far as what to expect in content updates, you know, every 2 weeks. Do you think that something that I saw was that obviously they like having their surprises, then they drop the news in and everything, but do you think it would be interesting and valuable to have information on those content updates when the patch itself drops? That gives people more time to like think about items and stuff, what's coming up, how the game might be changing, have a better picture, start thinking about, you know, that week's competitive event. more than 2 or 3 days before the actual weekend. I don't know. Personally, I don't. Update's gonna hit either way, and we're not gonna know the specifics.
Would it be helpful? Yes. Would it be valuable for them? No, I don't think. Right? What would be the point of that? That they'd actually just kill their hype, right?
Yeah,
Sure,
it'd be gimmicky for them, in my opinion. It'd be just be kind of weird, because then like you're just kind of that whole thing, right? The night before the patch, or that the whole day before a patch, like everyone's attitude is kind of, none of this matters. Why am I scrimming? I'm gonna go play like Doom or something.
for big patches.
Even for some, yeah, unless like something like weird is teased, right? Like it changes the meta of playing Zone Wars sometimes when you know attack air is coming out the next day, or just for some certain anomaly instances. For big patches, then yeah, I agree. But content updates sometimes, people's attitudes falter when they have certain types of information. So I don't know.
But does that really matter?
Yeah, I guess it doesn't. Yeah.
Like sure. No, there was one that was huge to me where they told us that zone chopping was going to be a thing, like that we were going to break the builds like beforehand. Like it was like a week beforehand, and I just didn't want to scrim. Like I felt like there was no reason at all for me to be scrimming because it was such a huge change. So yeah, I see where you're getting at, but
yeah,
that's a tough part of like all changes though, right? Like, I mean, not only just before every patch, but also like if the season's ending soon, right? Motivation goes down, or like if a gun comes out and it feels really broken, you see a lot of, obviously this almost works as a litmus test for like truly dedicated competitive players and those who aren't, right? But like, drum gun's so broken, I'm taking a break till the drum gun's fixed, right? Like, all right, good luck, see you in a couple of weeks, you know what I mean? Like, I'll be way behind the curve. I don't know. You see, I think almost it's a discipline thing, and for how much like it's worth it to you, what might be the potential change that next day, right? Like,
yeah, and there's again both sides, right? There's people who are getting demotivated when they see a patch coming, or there's people who are getting motivated. They're like, oh, this is the change I wanted to, this might bring the change that I was hoping for. Oh, this new weapon might be good. Like, this is what I want to use. Might be something that I'm going to use in my loadout, and it's going to be great. It's going to make me a good player,
Yeah.
There's those people too.
That's true. That's true. All right, guys, let's get our first caller in here. Let me pull him in. Yeah. We got Casters. Hey, Casters, what's up? How you doing tonight?
Hey, I'm doing great.
Good, awesome. Glad to hear from you. What did you want to talk about with us tonight?
So just where the weapon meta is going, specifically the combat shotgun, the drum gun. So
anything specific?
Yeah, sure. So I think the rarity of the combat shotgun is a little too low, and so to make the other shotguns in the game more viable. So at the moment right now, the TAC, I think they either need to increase the rarity. Decrease the rarity of the combat shotgun so it's easier to find, or make the damage drop off distance lower for the TAC shotgun, so you can use it at further range and it's actually good. Because right now, I'd say if you don't end up with a combat shotgun, you have scuff loot, because you have to leave maybe your drop spot 'cause it's contested. It's really hard to actually come back from that, get a kill, and win the game. And then with the drum gun, I was just going to say, I think it's actually very balanced now. I don't know if everyone got the in-game voting earlier today.
No, not everybody gets those.
I voted 3 out of 5 because they actually did pretty well with their nerf of the drum gun. They reduced the damage, which means like that didn't really stop you from picking it up. But now you're starting to see people realize if I'm Kovaxing all day and building this muscle memory with my tracking, and then I pull out the drum gun and I want to track someone at a mid distance, I really can't hit them because of the bloom. Such a large amount of bloom.
Yeah.
So it's really fitting the niche. I don't know if it was meant for, but it's filling it now of barrel stuffing and destroying builds close range. So I think it's very balanced now.
See, with your whole combat and TAC thing, it's still a whole rock, paper, scissors game, but I think a lot of people just prefer paper for some reason because it feels good. I think the TAC is in a 1v1 versus the combat, people are just so used to playing that easy, smart strategy with the combat of like, I'm gonna stay 2 boxes away because it's smart. You're not gonna take damage. And in that situation, the combat works, but don't sleep on the TAC, don't try to play like you have a combat when you have a TAC is I think the main thing that people are making the mistake of. I think they're both in a good place. Yeah, the rarity can be buffed, or like the drop chance can be buffed for the combat because it's a bit harder to find, but it's a lot better of a gun, right? We can in a sense of the general playstyle competitively. The TAC works though, you know, late game blue zones. In certain fights, it's better than the combat, but I think the TAC has a bit too much hate in that situation.
It's hard
Yeah, I
because the
agree with
TAC.
that. Oh,
I was just
sorry.
gonna say it's hard because the TAC encourages you to play, like, not the best Fortnite you can play, right? Obviously, hopping in someone's boxes and killing people, the best
depends,
players
though.
are doing it, right? Like,
Yeah,
but like
it's like-
conceptually, it
it's
feels like
just-
the wrong move.
I feel like you can't play the footsies that you normally can, like with any
Yeah.
other game or with any other weapon. With the TAC, I feel like the TAC, if you aren't that kind of player who can take walls and get in their face, and you don't even necessarily have to be committing to the 50-50 in their box, right? That's not necessarily still the range that the TAC. I mean, yes, obviously the TAC in that range is good, but it's really that spot where you can still take shots. You're in that box to box range. You can take shots and you can still not get shot back. That's where it excels. And I think you're right, Shyo, that people aren't necessarily, you know, adapting to that. But at the same time, like, everybody loves the combat. Like, everybody loves the combat. Everybody loves playing the combat. I just don't. I hate. I really, and this goes back to what we talked about in the beginning with the burst SMG. I hate landing in a game and not finding my favorite gun. I just can't. It pisses me off.
Yeah.
I love the combat.
Yeah,
it
for
feels
sure.
so good, and I hate when I land and I loot an entire POI and I don't get one. Because now I've trained, and this might be my fault, right? Shyo, I completely agree with you, right? I could learn to play the TAC better. I could 100% do that. And so it is my fault that I love the combat so much that every time I see it, I pick it up. But at the same time, man, it feels like it is the same niche, right? I always put in the same slot. It's not like I put the combat in a different slot because it's a different thing. It's the same. I'm putting it in my shotgun slot and I'm using it as a shotgun, but I have to play so much differently between both of them that it kind of, it's like if I don't have a combat man, like all the stuff that I'm normally practicing isn't going to be used.
So
I mean,
would you?
That's a skill gap
Would you
increasing
say-
argument, right? Like, the best players are gonna be the ones who are good with all of the weapons that they can possibly land on.
Dubs still carries attack. Can we be clear about that? Dubs and Mega still carry attack.
So would you think that it should just be left the same and really no balance changes should be made besides maybe just making the combat a little bit easier to find, and think that the like competitive community just needs to adapt to the TAC shotgun more?
I think the story's always been the same with the TAC. It's been the lesser shotgun since like day one. I think there was
Yeah.
like one meta where the blue TAC was like good, kind of.
Purple TAC was okay.
Like, yeah, purple TAC, yeah. But like it's always been the lesser gun to an extent. You always gotta, you know, the game puts you in a position to play differently. But you know, it's dope to, as Ball said, have like the best gun for you and have the option. I think the best thing is having the option between like a good choice and a bad choice, rather than just having like something broken and something you have to deal with. Like save that for big utility like RPGs and heavy snipers. But if you know, there's literally a meta type of gameplay you should be playing to be good. And they're not enforcing it because of like a rarity choice. This kind of seems kind of dumb on paper.
Yeah, no, I can see that. No, I like that. That makes sense. That's a decent argument against it, right? I think it's important to remember, right? Like the TAC saw damage buffs all across the board at the beginning of season 9, and
It felt better at that point, by the way. It felt better than the combat at that point.
I think
It felt
honestly,
great. I
I think a
loved
lot of
using
that
it
had to
to
do with, obviously there was like the mysterious fix that made it more consistent, that no one really knows a lot about what it actually fixed percentage wise or like any actual numbers on, right? But I think honestly, I'm willing to bet that a lot of that was just like, that's still, you still play pretty differently with the combat than you could with the pump before. And I'm willing to hang my hat on that first week just being
Yeah, I
a
agree
fluke
with
of
that.
like, we're all learning how to use this item, right? Like, and so the TAC was more comfortable than the new one.
There's the other thing, right? And not only the other aspect of Caster's question, but like the fact that the drum gun was way stronger back then too. So people were playing those ranges where, because of the drum gun, they were playing the close, right in your face ranges where the TAC shines, or
Exactly,
it
yeah.
shines like crazy. So
Before we
that's possible.
move too much onto the drum gun, though, I did want to say, because you agreed, Bala, that like not too much balance changes need to be made between the two shotguns, in your opinion, and that the combat shotgun rarity just needs to be brought down some. I feel like there's one big quality of life change that's kind of gone like unnoticed, right? You can left click and hold with the
please.
combat, and you can't left click and hold with the TAC. which just
I'm
feels
gonna be honest, I didn't even know that until now.
yeah,
For real?
yeah. And it just feels really weird and like antiquated, and there's like no purpose behind it. I don't even care if they make it so you can't hold, your mouse button with either one. Just make it consistent. Like, it's so frustrating. I don't know. That just frustrates me. Anyway, drum gun.
Well,
You mentioned-
another quality left is the dang delay, man. Get that out of here. God.
Man, the only issue with it is I
So
think
much better without the delay. So much better.
people will find a way to like the delay is just in place because I think they have to think of something to not let this like increased speed of fire happen. Like, I guarantee you, if they took off delay, someone would find a way. Like, there's a whole rift thing right now where if you cancel a rift, you can get your shot out immediately to like quadruple combat shot in like 2 seconds. So it's in there for a reason. It is kind of clunky, but I don't know if they're ready.
Let's get a better implementation of it, man. Let's get a rate of fire, like a delay that's based on the rate of fire of your gun, like
Yeah.
that will just trigger as soon as you shoot your gun, and then boom, done. Like, I don't even honestly, was that shotgun timer ever actually tuned to any rate of fire? Because I don't think it was even tuned to the pump.
No, it's just
Right?
set to a. It's
just
not
an
based on the rate
arbitrary
of fire.
number.
Yeah, it's.
Oh, real? I thought it was set to the. No, I think it's just two. Yeah, I thought it was the pumps. Yeah, the old pumps.
No,
I thought
yeah.
so too, but I don't think so.
The
yeah,
thing,
true.
like the conspiracy theory worry, right, is that like the shotgun delay is like a direct nerf to edit plays and to building and then shooting, right, like, and all of that kind of a vibe, right? And so kind of the thing I've seen floating around, people go like, oh, they're never gonna fix it because that makes the better players better and the worst players worse, and they'll never do that, which I think is a bogus argument, right? Like we talked about,
Yeah.
we've seen multiple things lately. Yeah, we've seen things that have reduced the skill gap, but we've also had a lot of new things that increase the skill gap. And I don't think that their decision to remove or keep the shotgun delay is going to hinge on there being more or less possible edit plays.
Yeah,
right?
I don't agree with that at all, because I feel like the delay is, if you're good at the game, you're gonna know how to work around it. But if you're bad at the game, you're gonna be swapping between all your weapons and literally screwing yourself because of the delay. So I feel like it actually hinders players worse than it hinders any sort of good players. I guess that's the case with most things that are like trying to band-aid fix, like, oh, the good guys are doing this too much. Like,
Yep.
but I don't know.
Yeah, that's not the way forward. All right, casters, we're going to continue to talk about drum guns a little bit, but I wanted to thank you for hopping in here and sharing this topic with us.
All right. Also, if I could add, if you could discuss the new SMG.
Yeah, we talked about that a little bit at the beginning, and I'm sure we'll talk about it some more too.
All right,
Again,
great.
casters,
Thank you guys.
Thanks, casters.
Appreciate it.
Thank you, man.
Have a good night.
Casters with food cast.
So, drum gun, guys, how are we feeling about it right now? Balla, you seem to kind of be generally on board with the idea that it's in a healthy spot.
Yeah, I never pick it up, except early game.
I think it's chilling. It's nice. It has bullets. It shoots. Not bad gun, like it's just, it used to be able to just do a lot to builds back in the day, but now the AR is back, heavy, going in, bop, tac AR is there too. For your ammo situational needs. Drum gun's kind of just you might have it, you might, it's preference. It's just preference.
We don't see that much
Yeah.
of just a shotgun and the drum gun. You might see combat and drum gun every now and then, but most of the time it's an AR, right? Or
Yeah,
maybe
AR,
the tac
tac
AR.
AR.
Yeah. Like, is this a symptom? Almost to me, it's a symptom of like, I don't know. I feel like part of what this almost harkens back to the rarities issues, right? They're trying to meta bust through what you have access to, right? If you have access to everything, you're always going to have a combat and a scar, and that's it, right? Like, because that's just best. You like GG, you win, right? And that kind of harks back to the whole power curve and that whole idea, right? But
Yep.
do you feel like that's the case right now with the drum gun? Like, it just doesn't. Sure, it was nerfed, and now it's just not the best in slot, and so now it's not worth really picking up if you have another option.
I think it's honestly because of its drop chance. The first week it was out, if everyone has a drum, you don't get punished for really pushing from longer ranges. And there isn't that type of relationship between close range weapon versus a medium to long range weapon. Like an AR can stop a dude coming in, right?
Yeah.
But like drum to drum, especially when your back's against the wall, the guy's getting to you either way, and there's more spam either way. And everyone starts off and has a chance to pick up a drum. But if you start the game off with a purple tac AR, right, you're not gonna really drop that for a green drum gun, because it feels good. and it's dope. Same thing, like, you know, having access to a SCAR or an AR, you kind of mold your entire game plan around that. So the fact that, you know, you can get beamed in the air. There's a lot of, you know, shit that just happens over and over again. There's less of a chance for the drum gun to actually shine because there's other guns now that are like, hey, we exist too, and we have the same chance to drop.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like, I still think that it has a space, and I think players are carrying it, right? Just because I don't carry it doesn't mean that other people. And it's huge in that really close range, man. It's still really good. The damage nerf did make it feel worse. Like, I don't want to get into a spray fight with attack, right? It might be one of those cases where it's like slightly over nerfed. But I don't want to say that because I don't like when people carry drum guns at all. The issue though was, and you guys already touched on this, was that because it was best in slot, because it was the thing that everybody carried, everybody had it, and everybody would shoot it at the same time at the same people, and it would be 50 bullets of 3 walls of yours getting taken from 3 sides, right? And that's just very frustrating. Mm-hmm. And the noise spam and all that stuff. So I think that the damage, sure, it was an issue, like you could get melted, but I also don't feel like they actually addressed the root cause of the item. And now that they've kind of feels like it might have been over nerfed in terms of damage, that because nobody carries it, the actual issue of the gun is no longer an issue.
I hate to be the guy who's constantly comparing to League of Legends. That's just where the brunt of my previous competitive experience lies.
Man, well, you made a podcast called Hotline FN, like.
But this is a common issue you find with. This is the common issue you find with like more complex games, more complex systems that need balancing, right? Like drum gun's a problem. What's the easiest fix? Cut the amount of damage it does, right? And I think they're gonna find with the drum gun that like. They buff it by a point or 2, right? Like what do they drop it by? Like 3 points of damage a shot? 4? Like there's not a lot of wiggle room in there, right? Per shot for them to like adjust that number. And I'm willing to bet that there's no sweet spot in that 4, point margin, right? It's either going to be too strong,
maybe not,
or it's going to be too weak. I think that it's more an issue, like you said, of sort of the root causes of like what made it broken wasn't necessarily the amount of damage it dealt. It was how it did it, in which situations, and how long it can do it, right? Like plus the amount of damage it does to builds, plus, I think that if they really want to make it not oppressive, but still have a spot in the meta, that's what they're going to have to address, right? If they want to make it actually like a viable choice over the TAC AR, it needs to still have situations in which it shines. And I don't think the situations in which it shines right now come up often enough to make up for how little damage it does.
It's kind of a conundrum for them, right? Because the whole reason that the community voted for it was because it was broken. Let's be honest here. The reason that people voted for it was because it was really, really, really good, and it could melt somebody in an instant. Why people voted for it, but now it doesn't. Like now it still does that, and it could still happen. And I'm sure it happens in pubs. So hopefully that satisfies them enough, and they're like, okay, cool. Now this weapon fits. Like, right? It's still appeasing the people who wanted it in the game, and they're still going to be playing the game because of the drum gun. So hopefully it's there, and you don't have to really worry about it too much in competitive.
Yeah, I bet a lot of people who actually use it in pubs and stuff don't even read patch notes and probably don't even feel a difference when using it against other players. So they stay happy, we stay happy. It's a fun time.
I like it.
Yeah. Gotta love it.
Good job, Epic.
Yeah. All right. Here's an interesting question from Crims. He's asking about what do we think scrims are going to look like, customs, after qualifiers are over here in the next 3 weeks or so, and before World Cup actually happens. He's interested in specifically about people's ambition, who's still going to be giving it their all. If we expect people to be giving it more of their all, or half of it. I don't know. What are you guys thinking?
I'm having like you can go first. Go for it.
We're gonna be in one of those situations like we were in January, where everybody's gonna be like, "Nothing to play. What do I play?" I think that's gonna be the case, but again, I always remember that there's still gonna be $1 million on the line every single weekend, apparently. So whether that's gonna be competitive Fortnite or what it's gonna be, or if it's gonna be competitive creative, Fortnite? I don't know. I don't know what's going on.
Don't speak that evil into our world.
Right now, these guys are like, they're hiring someone to drive their car. They're like, hey, you know, put out customs, get these people back. Let them do what they need to do. I hate customs. I'll be real with you. I hate the fact that we have to play on a lower quality server, because they are. My FPS sucks. Like, you know, my shots feel delayed. It feels like I'm playing on a 5 millisecond ping monitor or like a TV in my living room. I wish there was just a system that you could grind equally with everyone, like Arena or something that had like a choice for loss. Like, I think customs have made the W key so much worse, because you can just get into another game instantly and just do the same thing again. Yeah, it's dope practice for like in a sense, but like I just wish that there was just a better way where practice, especially for this 10 game format, right? Like, why not on Wednesday have like a practice LTE for the same mode that is like a max of 10 games over 3 hours instead of duos every week that like has a leaderboard. You know, there's so many things they can do, but I just feel like everything's going on autopilot and it's getting worse and worse. You know, someone makes a new Discord every other like Tuesday, and everyone gets shaken up, and then obviously after Worlds, like, everything's going to be in shambles again, as Ball said in January. I just wish there was something official. You know, League is always you got this rank system. Here, watch this major, right? Here's the rank system, watch the major. For us, it's like, go try and make scrims, try to qualify off of practice that's non-existent. I just wish it related more. I wish practice related more, and that's how people get invested.
Yeah,
Opinion.
I mean, I agree basically with all of that entirely, right? I wish Arena was better. I think there's a lot of changes we can make, and something I'm really hopeful they'll talk about is potential changes to Arena, hopefully sooner than World Cup. You know, maybe we get some fixes after qualifiers are done. Who knows?
Well, they commented on that last blog post, so.
Oh yeah, that they are looking
changes,
to make changes, right? Yeah, so.
Yeah, and we knew that, and I don't really think we got anything eliminated except some like weird stuff. But anyway, sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, but like specifically to the topic of like the customs we do have, as you know, bad or as good as they are going forward after those qualifiers, I can't see it unless somebody within that's like the pros are gonna have to be putting up some of their qualifying money in order to continue to get good practice, right? Because once the hope of qualifying is gone for the vast majority of players playing in those customs, how competitive does it stay, and how populated does it stay, right? Like, are we just gonna see significantly less people playing in these customs at all in the first place because like they've got nothing to do until at least after July, right? I think that there has to be a pretty big, I don't know. And like you said, we're going to have more competitive events. You got millions every week, right? If those are scallywag cups, right? Like that's something. That's something. I don't know.
Yeah, but probably not enough to spur the level of like, oh, practice, like practice that does not mean anything in itself, right? Nothing that you're not increasing the leaderboards. You're not making any money off the practice itself.
Yeah.
So I don't think that like a Scallywag Cup could actually spur that. I think World Cup does, obviously, because it's 10 weeks.
Yeah.
This is grind time. But I think another issue, though, and this isn't an issue for Crims, well, maybe it is actually, is literally when qualifiers end, I think is going to be the biggest shift, right? When qualifiers end is going to be the biggest shift, because all the people who've qualified are going to go into their own Discord and they're going to play customs, and they're sure going to be motivated, but everybody else is going to be like, well, I can't play I can't play in anything for the next month. Like, what do I do? Like, sure, I'll play in the weekly events or whatever, but what are they going to do? I hope we as a community can step up and do something, because arena changes would be good, but they still haven't hinted at any sort of incentive or anything like that, or league or anything that will make me play it properly. I don't care about my rank. Like, that doesn't mean it. Like, I need a leaderboard, and I need like something that's not in perpetuity, right? Yeah. Like a StarCraft 2 rank or a League of Legends rank means nothing to me in the grand scheme of things, right? Because it's forever. Like, I could just grind that up the next week, whatever. I don't care. Something that matters is a season, something that's like, okay, World Cup season or the next season or whatever. That matters to me, because I'm like, okay, this season I have a goal. Let's do this season. Yep. And it's everybody's doing it at the same time, right? So
to clarify, League of Legends does it that way.
Yeah, but that's a in perpetuity thing as well, right? Like,
no, it resets every season.
Yeah,
which is what we would love to have in Fortnite.
That's
right?
what because like it's it always gets harder the higher you go. So like you'll always have like a chance to learn, and like, you know, you literally basically when you get high enough just need pop-off games over and over again.
Yeah.
And like it does reset, you know, season to season. Usually after like a major event, like Worlds, or other, you know, end of season split tournament. I think it would work. It's just, I wish there was just something like company mandated that's not just like scrim servers, because then there's, you know, incentive to play, like a leaderboard obviously as well. It's just
a leaderboard without actual rewards means nothing to me too. Like rewards maybe in the sense that there's going to be, you know, you're going to get picked up by an org or whatever, but a seasonal leaderboard that is resetting often and often enough, like that there's multiple of them a year.
Check it. The battle pass system, right? That like they've essentially pioneered in every game, and their mom now does battle passes, right? Like,
yep.
They've proven that they know how to roll out selective content that is interesting and engaging, that people go like, oh, I can't wait till I get to tier 20. I can't wait till I get to tier. If they just gave us toys, you know, different beach balls and stuff to throw around, dude, we freaking love that crap. Dude. Hand that out every major rank, like, bam, everybody's
Dubs
playing.
Will be throwing
Everybody's playing.
He's gonna throw his baguette like he's chilling. Like,
give me rubber chickens to throw. Let me, like, goodness.
Man, honestly, if you just put like an umbrella, would just get everyone riled up.
Dude, an umbrella would.
I've never seen more competitive players play a LTM. Until John Wick, when a black umbrella was offered for like 3 games.
Yeah, or like the share the love stuff they handed out. Don't give them sprays, give us something a little more obvious. But the share the love was a great first step, right? Like, they've shown that they're willing to explore that. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It was sprays even, and people were hyped about that. So.
Yeah, people were still sprayed, and it was just, or they were still hyped, and it was just sprays. Like,
yeah, like combine both communities. That's smart.
Let's go. But yeah, on the customs topic, I love customs. I hope that they keep customs, and if they delete customs, I'll be really sad, because all I think they need to do is a few changes to make them viable for third parties to really integrate and really use, and then we could have our own leagues. We don't have to wait on them. We can be experimenting. We can be testing for them. We could be testing structures for them, and like literally like then all of a sudden they're like, okay, cool, we saw what you guys did in FMPL or whatever with our new custom system, and we're gonna implement that in the game. Let's do it. Like, let's go.
I don't know why
customs were like supplementary, man. I just don't think that it should be the main thing. It's dope, you know, for every game for everyone to have like the private scrim practice, but like everyone should just be in the same type of space.
Child, it will right now it is the supplementary. Like, let's be honest here. More like, I saw somebody say that arena or customs is the majority. No, it's really not. If for us, sure, because we pay attention and we're super involved and we care, we thoroughly care, but it's not at all. Arena is still the place to play. Like, it 100% is, and just because it's trash in terms of practice doesn't mean that people aren't playing it. Ninja and Reverse are playing it still. Like, there's tons of people who influence people that are playing arena still. And that is where the majority is still. It's still supplementary,
which is how I would want to keep it, right? Like, if a project lead comes to me and says, like, we've got enough resources to make changes to arena or to make improvements to customs, I'm gonna pick arena every time. Like, I would.
Depends on the scale.
I think customs could be useful. Sure, I suppose.
I pick arena too.
No, man, you. No,
I just think it's better if everyone just has that level, the same entry point, the same entry point at the same place. It's like, what, there's 70,000 people in Atlantis, right? But like, and that's it's just so weird to approach. I just think that.
So here, let me ask you this: like, to make arena better, to make arena what it should be, how, like, that is a monumental task. Right now, it's nowhere near where it needs to be. Right? To make customs okay, it's literally not that big of a deal. Again, I'm not a dev. I don't know anything about that, but like, they just need to make it so that we don't.
But the thing with customs is that, like,
but like, all they need to do is fix that that random people can start your games and make it so that you, like. That's it. Just because if that wasn't a thing, then customs would be great.
Customs don't matter. The issue is that customs just don't matter.
They can, though. They can. We could take a customs match. We could take the replays. We can make a leaderboard on our own. We could do that. That is 100% feasible right now. But the issue is there's no way to actually play them, because if you get more than 100 people, well, if you get 100 people, there's always going to be that one asshole who's going to start the game before every 100 people is in there. So it's just a very frustrating system where you have to spam games and you have to do what you said you don't like, which is have people play game after game after game, and even if they die, just hop into the next one. Because if you don't do that, there is going to be games that are starting with 20 people and you're never going to be able to start a game ever.
The tie-in though won't be there for the actual game, because like you will never be able to have like rewards based off of the game on your game performance when it's in customs, because customs are all third party. I'm not saying just remove third party altogether. I'm still for like third party leagues and whatnot, but to grab like other normal players' attention, that okay, this is an avenue I can go, like the bronze players, like the silver players, right? They just don't have an avenue to play, and which is why there's not much exposure, which then leads to like not this split, this shambles of some people in arena, some in customs, and neither of them really mattering too much other than just practice.
Yeah, this is kind of the crux.
Longevity, and like
it's kind of the crux of this issue. There is that like the funnel of player skill. We kind of touched on this last week. The thing is like no matter how good arena gets, no matter how amazing arena gets at servicing the mid to high, or even the lowest of skill to the highest skills ranks, and it's amazing and has in-game rewards and leaderboards and all this stuff, it's still not going to be the place, or like it's not going to be the highest tier practice possible that happens in scrims for every sport, whether online or in person, right? Like, and so improving in an ideal world, improving customs means improving practice and the quality of third-party events for the toppest tier, and making improvements to arena is like really good for everyone, especially good for 90% of the players, but not that much compared to making custom improvements for the very, very high tier. Ideally we get both, right? Like ideally it doesn't have to be either or. I think for the longevity of the game's competitive scene, I think it might be smart to do arena first, which is like a pointless what if anyway.
Yeah,
right?
again, we don't know that, we don't know how long it'll take to do either thing or anything like that. But we're so close on one end, and it feels like we're so close on one end. It feels like we're so far on the other end. We actually, you know what? Let me take that back, because it felt like we were close with Gauntlet mode. What? Like, we were so close with Gauntlet mode.
Yeah.
STL was great. We just talked about it. It was great. Let's just do that, man.
No, the difference is 24/7, right? Like,
no, like
24/7.
The issue with Gauntlet was that they just they cracked for the queue times, man, and it ruined everything. It just went to like 24/7 pubs.
Yep.
You're right, Gauntlet was dope. I'm not gonna lie. It's just
it's exactly like
they got a stick.
Yeah, it's exactly like the first week of arena. It was great, and then because in the case of Gauntlet, it had its own failures, right? In case of arena, a lot of it has to do with the unbounded cap and not enough DK, right? But yeah. All right. Well, I'm ready to move on from arena and practice conversations. If you guys are, we can keep rolling here. Here's another question from Crims. Look at Crims, all up in here. This one's a little more lighthearted. Crims. He wants to know.
Qualifier Crims. Let's go.
Wait, I lied. We already talked about this. He wanted to talk about picking up Scar over Jerome, or the other way around. Then I think pretty definitively you pick up the Scar. This is better at everything. All right. We ain't talking about that then. Gandhi kind of wants to talk a bit about leagues and stuff here. Cool. We've talked a lot about that before in the past too. Gandhi, if you want to come in here and talk live with us, let's get you in. Okay, so we've talked a bit about these leagues, and we'll kind of skirt around it until we can get Gandhi in here. But what was it, last week with Infamous, and I think the week before that with Elevate as well, Balla, we touched on it a bit, and how like a standard implementation of leagues is basically impossible for Fortnite, and that's something definitely need to be a little more outside of the box. Do you see a world where like anything like that makes sense here? Let's get Gandhi in here. Hey Gandhi, how you doing tonight?
I'm great. How are you?
Pretty great. Tell us a bit about your thoughts on leagues here.
All right, so I'm wondering how you guys would like to shape a pro league, because I feel that as if there's only 100 players, it might be a little bit too exclusive. It might not. The way I see it is that if there's only 100 players, the thing that makes CS:GO Pro League interesting to watch is that every time you're against different players. But if there's only 100 players, you're going to be doing the same competition over and over again. So it'd be weird to me if it was just only 100, and I think it'd be better if there's more like, 200, something along the lines. Obviously, be both solos and duos. With that, also, I'm wondering who you guys would like to host it. I think ESL has like the best position to host a league. They already have their ESL Fortnite channel. They already have their own league that they run. So I'm wondering if you guys have anyone else in mind. Infamous allegedly told me that they'd already tried to talking to face it, and they don't want to have anything to do with Fortnite. So I'm wondering just who you guys would think would be good for that.
Okay, yeah. We'll definitely get into this. Gandhi, thank you for bringing this topic up, man.
No problem.
Thanks, man.
Yep.
I mean, in terms of the company, I don't really think that there's a huge need to like pick a certain one that's more suited to it. ASL's obviously done one before, so yeah, we could probably start with them, but I want to see competition. I want to see multiple leagues going at it. I want to see DreamHack, I want to see ASL, I want to see E-League, see Face It. I want to see everybody get involved. Unfortunately though, like whatever you said about Face It, like companies aren't going to want to get involved unless they see proof, right, that this is a viable thing. They can start running a circuit with Fortnite, right? And I think there has been, but I don't think there's been like a large scale proof that Fortnite will work on these circuits, right? Sure, ESL did one event, WSOE did one event. The only one that's really doing anything is GG Circuit, which is very unique, and it's not really something that anybody is going to be running, right?
Yeah.
The WAN type of things. So I just don't think there's been large scale proof to get these companies involved yet, and that will take Epic to, hey, here's the rope. Go ahead and go. Let's do it.
Yeah.
In terms of a structure, I'm actually writing up my thoughts about structure for Pro League and an amateur league right now, because this is my hot topic of like the last like 2 weeks, right? Is how to make a league work. Ever since that one tweet that I was like, why hasn't anybody tried to make a customs league? I feel like we could definitely divvy up in terms of like here like exactly like MMA or something like that. Like, here's our bottom 100 players. Here's our top 100 players in the pro league, right? I think that would be very, very, very cool. And you could have your main card, you could have your undercard or whatever it is. In the pro league, in the like overall national pro league or whatever like that, and that would be awesome. I think people would be really interested in that, especially if there's up down systems. Like I don't think there's been, even like FMPL didn't do a good job of an up down system.
Relegation.
Relegation, yeah, exactly. Where teams would go up to the main card or whatever it would be, to the pro league, and then teams would fall down. I think that PUBG is doing something that would be very interesting for everybody to look at, which is I think they're doing a league system, right? And that would be really cool. I haven't looked into it at all, but yeah, top 100, bottom 100 play on the same night. Let's watch the undercard and let's watch the main card, and that would totally work. And you could have like these focuses where you have plenty of time. Have like do 10 games a week or something like that, and then at the end of it, top scores. Like the thing about the Fortnite formats that we have so far is they could last over a long period of time. You could play them over, you could play them over a month. You could play them over hundreds of games, and they would still be relevant. They would still add storyline. There would still be people overtaking and going over each other. And I think that's very important, because you need to kind of reward the entire spectrum. You need to reward the entire spectrum of the game, because otherwise there's no reason for somebody to be, fighting for whatever. And then you do regional things. Like I think it's totally viable, totally reasonable I see it happening.
How do orgs fit into that though?
How do orgs fit into that? I think they need to
into a structured process, because like in stuff like OWL and League, right? It's like a certain amount of players for a certain amount of teams, right? You look at the things happening right now, like NRG has such a big representation compared to every other org. Would there be like a limit? I know it's 200 people, but to get it like real, get all the orgs involved, split up properly, buy-ins and stuff, right? Like franchising. How would that approach work?
I don't think you do org franchising, like org-based franchising.
True.
I think you do player and individuals. I mean, if you're doing team events, you do them at that team level and not above them, whoever they're signed, whoever they're sponsored by. I don't think that needs to be.
Yep.
Here's the thing, like if Epic wants to have a say about these sorts of things, if they want to say like, no, sorry, you already, have 4 people in the pro league signed, you can't sign more or whatever, right? Like then they also need to be doing something on their side, right? For League of Legends, that trade-off is, yeah, we're doing franchising, but we as Riot Games are mandating a bunch of like player treatment stuff, player wage stuff, and we get to do that because we supplement the pay. Right.
Yeah.
And so either Epic has to do something like that, or they just say, screw orgs, right? Like that's shunning like a potential like money partnership, right? But we'll focus on individuals, individual players, and have everything be tied to that. I think that's how it would have to be if they want solos to continue. I don't think there's another way.
Yeah, they have to, like, yeah, honestly, if they do even up to trios, I don't think they can focus on orgs at all. I think squads, then you can start focusing on orgs, because then it's 25 squads in a match.
Yeah,
that starts to be reasonable, right? That starts to be reasonable to follow those stories.
Yeah.
But yeah, besides that, I don't think you can do any of that sort of stuff. Like, and we will have the situations where we'll have 2 liquid duos, we'll have 3 or 4 phase duos. Fortunately, that's the reality of it, and whether we tell that story or not doesn't. I don't think people care. I think you'll still be interested in the duos specifically, right? And sure, it actually adds more, more of that. Hey, liquid killed liquid. Oh, that's crazy. Like that. That's fun to me. That's interesting. But yeah, I don't know if orgs will have a real.
Because like integrity wise, like it's just when there's 2 liquid teams in the same game. Or like two of any org's teams in the same game, like in terms of drop spots and like interactions in game, it'd be weird if like because it happened in League, Samsung White and Samsung Blue or Black, I forget which one.
Yep.
It's odd when they face each other, like in terms of behind the scenes things. Not saying like stuff happens, but like
they live in the same house, they practice in the same house. It's really, I mean, like we talked about this before, but it's really an issue with online tournaments, right? Less than it's like anything to do with like the existence
not in
of
this
orgs
game, man. Not in this game. In this game, you are literally in a game with your team, with your teammates.
Yeah.
Fighting against other people, right?
Yes.
Like that's not. It's not at all the same situation as League or any of those other games where you face each other and then it's head to head. That obviously head to head, it doesn't. Like there's little incentive for a professional to collude or do anything
then
like
you're
that.
just throwing games. That's all. That's like a slightly different conversation and not as nuanced.
And that's happened in many esports. It's already a topic that's been discussed to death. Like it's fine, right? StarCraft, League of Legends, even, which is a big team game, 5v5, right? Games that usually where there's solo players, fighting games, StarCraft.
If there's 2 teams, that's basically what it comes down to, right? If you've got,
it doesn't really happen in team like 5v5 games, except for League. Like that's the only, and like amateur. Yeah, I guess it happens sometimes, but not on the scale that like other games, and in this game for.
Fighting games would be like the best example because people from the same org usually fight each other. 100%. Yeah.
I think that's an example of how it's okay, right? And I think that part of that, like the difference is it's 1v1, right? One team versus one team, irrespective of how many players are on those teams, versus me and my friend and 98 other people that we can collude together against and benefit each other, right? Like that's where the issue comes in, and that's where like the more nuanced conversation has to happen. And I don't think that it's just going to be an issue of orgs signing multiple teams. It's going to be anytime those top 200 players know each other, like God forbid, right? Like that's gonna be a potential issue. I don't know, Bala, do you have any thoughts on like how does that need to be addressed like going forward? Like, does it need to be built into the system, a way to handle that kind of an issue? And what does that look like?
I mean, you already know my answer, Tim. Let's stick to trios or squads, man. Let's stick to one mode. Let's not do multiple modes. Let's not do any of that stuff.
What do you think is the mode to go with? Like straight up,
trios.
The strongest mode, trios? Yeah, I would agree.
Yeah, trios. I would love squads, but trios. Trios. Yeah, and the reason for that is, again, if you have you know, if you are a trio, then you are a trio. That's it. There's no mixing. There's no matching. There's no, oh, I'm playing solo with not my duo, but another teammate. Like we can start, like, right. There's none of that. You are a trio, and that's it. You are fighting for yourself. It becomes way easier to do anything. You're a squad, nothing else. I'm not a solo player. I'm not a duo player. I'm never going to be, you know, talking to my squad about playing in duos. There's never going to be that issue at all, right? Just stick to one mode. That's the biggest thing. That's the biggest. Like, I don't. Is there any other way to address that?
I don't think that. Here's the thing. I don't think that fully addresses it, right? Like, FaZe could still have 2 trios, and they could still, majority of them all live in the same house and be best friends, and like still get in the game with a ton of other teams. Like, I don't think. Right. I think that like has potential to help mitigate it, but doesn't fix the problem. Yes. It doesn't stop it.
Right. In terms of the other side of things, where it's like, you know, the focus on the game, the viewing experience, the balancing. It's like, if there's just one set mode, it makes a lot of sense, because there are certain things that are, you know, we talk about. It was a big topic before. I don't know why it died out, but the end moving circles. Yeah. A lot easier to manage when you have multiple people. A lot harder to manage when you're by yourself. Yeah. Very different nuances. It's a different game entirely. You'll see it on the main broadcast week to week. The topics that are talked about, topics I've talked about as well. Mostly they've been solos. Duos is just a completely different ball game. Completely different, you know, analysis. Completely different ballpark altogether. Like the mechanics that you have to talk about, the strengths and weaknesses of players are completely different mode to mode. So it is kind of odd. There should be just one mode, I think. Yeah, that's a good idea.
Yeah, it's something that's kind of been a very recurring topic on this podcast, just because it feels like it's a huge potential shift that would help so many situations with this game, and even just the sort of general complaints people have about the format of the game itself. A lot of those issues are mitigated just by slapping another person on a team and saying we're only doing this. You know? Yeah. Not to promote band-aids through the form of like format shifting, right? But just like. It would be helpful even for those things, right? Until they get fixed, which is another definitely interesting point about it. I think we're going to get this question here from Stout is kind of interesting to me, and it's kind of about consistency, which is kind of like the MO of competitive Fortnite, right? Like, and he talks about being able to steal people's walls, basically. Watching Clix's gameplay kind of like blew this up, like in this scene as far as conversations go, and like, is there a trick? Is there not a trick? There's not a trick. But if you remove his proposition, right, is removing whatever interaction allows people with lower ping to get walls while turbo building, so that it's like a maybe, you know, instead of like this litmus test of do I have better geographical ping than they do? All right, let's go for it. And instead having a fast, consistent rule of a player can always steal your wall, a player can never steal your wall. What do you guys think? Do you guys think that's something that's needed? Or is it irrelevant to how the game is played?
This is so look, here's the thing, right? Let's actually look at the history of this, right? 7.4 is when they reduced the initial build delay. That is when the ping imbalance started, because the initial build delay was no longer 0.15, right? It was now 0.05 or 0.05 seconds, 50 milliseconds. That's when that started. Yep. Okay. So like, ever since then, players like Booga, players like Clix, players like Dub started becoming on the rise. Booga already started making a name for himself as the guy who takes walls, going to take every single one of your walls. In the pro community, everybody was talking about that. Hide your kids, hide your walls. Before he even qualified for World Cup, right? So that started back then. And guess what? We asked for that change. And that change is an overall, well, I don't know, let's talk about overall, but that change was received as an overall positive like thing. Yes, I can build fast now, but obviously it was like it wasn't actually in the game. It was actually in the game. Blah 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 blah, whatever. But because of that, people can now take walls off the first try, or they will take your wall eventually because of ping. Because now we're actually in that ping range. When the first build places is 50 milliseconds. I don't think people understand that. 50 milliseconds is about a lot of ping, that's ping for a lot of people. Yeah. It's 50 milliseconds. So you're acting, your clicks are going that fast in terms of your pings, right? So here's my question to the community, right? do you guys want to revert that change and be okay with not placing your first build after 0.05 seconds?
No, come on. Like
Or-
that's like almost setting up a straw man, right? Like that doesn't have to be the solution. That does not have to be the solution, right? Like they can just
But
say
ping is a thing, Tim. Ping is
yeah.
always a thing in all games, and like it's so. If we want a solution to this, we're gonna get something like shotgun delay. Like you know what I
it
mean?
would be a
Like,
solution like that. Yeah. It would be, in my mind, it would be some
it
kind of
would be
logical
one of those.
solution that says like, if this person is holding a wall and it's being taken, there's like a forward time looking block put out, right? Of like, they're not gonna, like, they still get the wall, or they definitely don't get the wall, right? Like this isn't like a particularly hard development challenge from like the logic standpoint, right? Like I don't know what their like actual systems and engines and stuff look like, but I think there are plenty of solutions beyond just like making building shitty again, right? Like, or like worse than it is now. Obviously, if that is the
What about
trade-off, I
the-
don't want it.
What about the solution of like having a max slowest ping that's like reasonable? Like some people have thrown the idea out of only having 20 ping, the lowest you can get to. That might make it an even playing field on both wall replaces and like shots for everyone, where everyone's locked to a certain ping.
I think that's a whole issue in and of itself, like limiting the speed of someone's internet connection to like the server,
Yeah.
basically. So basically like inputting an artificial delay on their actions and stuff. I don't think that's the way. I don't think that's the way at all. That feels very, ooh, that's risky, man. That's like,
That's a rabbit hole, yeah.
I feel like all the solutions are like that though. Like I feel like
Yeah.
everything that they would try to do to fix this would end up being one of those weird things where it's like I don't really understand how this works. Like I literally cannot think of a way, Tim. Maybe you can that you can make it so that you will never get the wall, or you will always get the wall when there's ping involved.
check it. If a wall is broken, if you break a wall with your pickaxe, your build delay for that space goes up to the 0.15 for that specific like physical space where that piece was broken. So you can still flick around and cover yourself, but you have a slower build time for that specific spot in the world. So that means that their turbo build, that 0.05, will always grab it. Like that feels like relatively elegant. It's easy to explain. You could add a visual. The visual for that short of a time frame matters. Like, I don't know. I think the consistency is doable.
Tim, did
I
you
think
just fix
an
wall
active decision-
replacing?
I just fixed wall replacing. Hire me. I'll fix all your walls.
Go.
Damn.
Let's go. I like it. Except, yeah, I don't know. Like that's a great idea.
Yeah, it's
But then
tough.
when it comes to like the like does that still allow you to like play with people's like the entire build? Like are you still gonna be able to like, you know, bait a wall and then go for a pyramid on a 50-50? Will the delay be enough? Obviously it doesn't have to be 0.15, right? It could just be like 0.07 to someone's 0.05.
Yeah.
So then never mind. Yeah, that works. It works still.
Because we always played on 0.15 before, right?
Yeah. I think that
And it's
there's
still working.
probably a more elegant solution that's not just based on these strict timings that are always going to interact weird with people's individual pings and stuff. I imagine that there is like a cleaner solution, but I think that, yeah, that kind of thing, introducing a delay like that.
Clip that twice. Holy moly. Dude, what?
It's already going on Reddit, man. I already feel it. Somebody's posting it over there.
Yeah.
Do it.
Shit.
Do it. Okay, well, we're kind of, I don't know, Bali, do you have some more thoughts there?
Yeah, I like wall replacing. I want to be able to take everybody's walls.
Yeah, I think as a mechanic, I should say, right? I mean, we can talk a little about this, right? Like, I definitely don't think that if the choice is made to make it consistent, the choice should not be that you can always hold your wall. Like, I don't think that creates like an enjoyable gameplay pattern. I don't think like it flies in the face of a lot of what Epic's done in the past of trying to push the gameplay pattern towards, right? Like, I don't think that we will ever see, or I really, really hope we don't ever see just the fast decision of like, yep, you can hold your turtle. That's it.
Yeah,
GG.
their solution
Don't
to that
bother.
would be like a 50 mat cap. Like,
Yeah,
it'd be
grenades go through
fucking-
walls.
Yeah. Oh, I hated that so much when that happens. Oh my god.
Right? Like,
There was an idea a long time ago about like nerfing turbo build in the sense that you would only be there'd be like a smash like shield thing on turbo build where you could hold it for a little while, but after 5 builds or something like that, it would disappear.
Like stun or
You
something?
wouldn't be able to do that anymore. Yeah, exactly. You wouldn't be able to actually build that wall anymore.
yeah, in my mind,
solution.
that's a great solution, right? Like that's one that adds.
But
You
the
could
issue with
argue
that is
adds too much
the late
clutter,
game.
but
when you get spammed and stuff, right? Like, how does that work in terms of defense in these big cluster situations?
Fast.
There are only so many layers in the server, man. Too many Tommy guns to go around.
That's totally fair. Totally fair. Totally fair. All right. Well, Shyo, thank you so much for being on the show. I've had a blast having you on. Balla, I think you've had a really good time here talking with Shyo. I wanted to ask you.
Speak for me, Tim.
All right, I'm sorry.
No, I'm just kidding. Shy, you're fucking great. Thanks, man.
Thank you, man. You guys too. You guys are pretty chill. Not gonna lie.
Shyo, I want to ask you.
Twitch channels, yeah.
Yeah, please continue to plug for me. Let's here we go. This is your moment, but please, like, let's hear mine. No,
I'm Canadian. It's a habit. Yeah.
I wanted to ask you before we send you off. I mean, we talked a lot about this, right? Future changes, that kind of stuff. But next week we have a patch, not a content update. What do you most want to see? Out of anything, out of anywhere, what do you most want to see on those patch notes?
So next week is going to be on week 9 then, right? That's going to be the big patch.
Yeah.
I want to see, obviously, bug fixes.
Yep.
I kind of want the heavy shotgun to be introduced sooner than later. If anything, like not until, you know, I don't want to see anything major. That's
Everyone's so sure the heavy shotgun's being released. Why?
Yeah,
the bow and another weapon were teased in the loading screen for the whole season.
A whole set of mythic weapons was teased, right? So
no, like, it was like people were just holding them last season in the loading screen, and they were all eventually released. Like in this, you know, in this one, there's a guy with a heavy shotgun just holding it. There's Zone Wars map with the with heavy shotguns, but I wanna personally see. You know, we're talking predictions. Made one on Twitter. We'll go again.
Let's go.
I predict.
Here comes Jailmark. He's gonna turn into Jailmark. Oh God.
I want to be 2 for 2. What's one big issue in the game? I think they're gonna change something in relation to white heals with bandages. I want to see them to be a little bit more prevalent. Medkits are dope. There was a topic on it on Reddit, I believe, where it does take 10 seconds for the full thing. Bandages takes 15 seconds for the whole process. I want to see a difference in healing, and just a whole different change to how healing works in the game. Rarities, how it's used, just a basic stuff like that. Yeah,
that could be really interesting, actually,
brother.
Yeah,
I know, but
Bold prediction. We've been asking for healing changes for at least.
They do things at the randomest times when we're all sleeping. So I hope that I'm fast asleep and dreaming, and I wake up to a nice utopia of bandages.
That's my dream every night. Every time I go to bed, you know, Tuesday night, Wednesday night. Oh man, it's just like sugar plum fairies, and then also scary, terrifying demons, and you just don't know which it's gonna be. Those are my dreams on those nights.
I don't know.
Balla, what do you want to see most on next week's patch notes?
I want to see the customs change so that you can't start other people's games. Boom, that's it.
Bam, that's the one. That's the one. All right, Shyo, where can everybody find you?
Dope. Twitch.tv/ShyoWager. The best. Hawaiian shirts, beards, all of it. And on Twitter,
all of it.
I make predictions. I say some stuff. You can follow that too. ShyoWager, all the same.
Follow the stuff he says.
Yeah.
Balla, where are you at these days?
BallaTW everywhere. Twitch is where I do all the VOD reviews live. You could also catch those on YouTube afterwards. I post them all, and then Twitter, where I muse, I think about things, I try to feel out the community's reactions to things, and I post my own unfiltered opinions, or maybe filtered a little bit. Hopefully everybody's opinions are filtered a little bit. Let's go. But yeah, guys, Shyo's a great VOD reviewer. If you're interested in my stuff, just go check out Shyo's stuff too. He is fantastic. He does the same type of analysis work that I do, and he's awesome. So go check him out.
Phenomenal.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much for being on the show, Shyo. Thank you, of course, as always, Balla, for hosting this amazing show with me. And I'll catch you guys on the flip side.
Awesome.
Peace.
Deuces.
All right, guys. Thanks so much for watching Hotline FN Episode 4. Again, for competitive Fortnite Season 9, Week 4. I had a blast tonight. Shyo was a great guest. Balla, of course, is an incredible co-host, a showrunner. Make sure you really listen to them. Follow them. If you want to be better at this game, it starts with studying the game. And two of the guys who do it best are BallaTW and ShyoWager. So make sure you are all over their socials and their streams and the content they put out. Again, if you enjoy Hotline FN, please follow and subscribe on all of our socials. We've got here this Twitch channel, twitch.tv/TIMMCD. We are on Twitter. Right now, it's just my own personal Twitter as well as Balla's. And then, of course, on YouTube, Hotline FN is the name of the channel. And you can find every episode. You can find timestamps for all the topics. And then again, we're also available wherever you find your podcasts. Subscribe to us through Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Spotify, whatever it is that you like. So thanks guys so much for stopping by, and we'll see you next time on Hotline FN.